Well, joining us now is Emma Thomas. She is part of the Women's Rights Network in Somerset and Dorset. Emma, good morning. Nice to speak to you. So what was your reaction then to the news yesterday?
Well, utter joy, because we've been working so hard for this. If you go on our website, our second aim is clarification of the Equality Act. You know, it's very, very important to us. And this has been, we just feel it's a massive victory.
So what are the concerns then that you have when it comes to the way that women are, or up until perhaps yesterday, were defined in the Equality Act?
Well, this was about, very much for us, about single-sex services. And, you know, across Somerset, this is a huge issue. So, you know, the Somerset Foundation Trust, for example, claims to segregate wards by sex, but doesn't. There have been several instances of males being put on women's wards. Staff told the policy overruled the law because of the Equality Act. And, you know, staff were even threatened with disciplinary action and possible dismissal if they said anything about it. So women have been made unsafe across Somerset because of this confusion about the Equality Act. So its clarification is really going to impact women in Somerset.
When you run sessions, what do people tell you about, what are women in particular telling you about how they feel on this aspect?
We've run stalls all over Somerset. We've been, you know, all over the place, and women come up to us. They talk about their concerns at work. They talk about their worries about changing rooms, you know, at Marks and Spencer's and Primark. You go into the big stores, they've often taken women off the fitting room sign. You know, you can go in and get a bra fitter and a man can be there, you know, in the cubicle next to you. And there's nothing that you can do, or at least there wasn't until yesterday. And that's something that has concerned women. Single-sex wards has really concerned women. And we've had young women as well, from, you know, school children, who've come up to us and talked about sports, talked about unisex toilets. You might be aware there was a case in the Oval 5 years ago. Boys were filming girls, and this happens all over, where you have unisex toilets, where boys will be filming girls. And quite often parents say their daughters aren't drinking in the day because they don't want to use the toilets. Now, this has got to be addressed.
What, from this point onwards then, what do you hope will be the difference? Because some of those things you're talking about would not necessarily be covered by the legal ruling, as the judges were saying, that it isn't sort of a victory of one over another side, but it does clarify, as you point out, some of what's in law in the UK. What do you hope will be the impact of this?
Well, this is about, you know, the fact is that the law does protect us. And because this was confused with gender reassignment, there have been things where we've had services that have ended up being mixed and discriminating against women. Now, obviously, there are big changes to come as this is clarified. But, you know, I think as well we're going to have to look at the organisations like Stonewall and other trans organisations who are giving misleading advice to companies about the Equality Act. This has always been the law. It's just been clarified. So why have we got this far where we've had mixed changing rooms, mixed toilets? You know, I'm very, very pleased that this is going to change. But obviously it's an uphill battle, making sure that this happens across companies.
Do you worry about the well-being of transgender people now?
Well, they're still protected. You know, it's the Equality Act still stands. It's just been clarified. So people are still protected against discrimination. But your protection against discrimination doesn't give you access to women's spaces. It protects you against losing your job because you're trans, or losing your house because you're trans. It doesn't give you an automatic right to enter women's spaces.
A lot of these people might feel very vulnerable in male spaces.
Yes, which is why women feel very vulnerable when men walk into women's spaces.
So what's the solution then, in your opinion?
The solution is what we have today, which is that the Equality Act has been clarified and women's single-sex spaces stand. Now, I'm not, you know, I can't help all of these things. I think some people are suggesting third spaces. Some people are suggesting that men become more accommodating of gender non-conforming men in their spaces. There aren't really many cases of men attacking gender non-conforming men in changing rooms, etc. So, I don't know what the future is going to hold. I'm just very, very happy today.
Emma, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for speaking to us. Emma Thomas there, who's from the...